Welcome. Drink with James, episode 202. I have been excited about this conversation for the last week or so. I've got Ernest James, founder of Noire Management, which is a diversity, inclusive talent communications and marketing agency. Ernest and I really just met in the last week. We have become very familiar with each other in that time. And thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
For everyone out there who doesn't know about your work, maybe give us a little background on you and your history.
So I've been in PR marketing for over 13 years. I started in the communications department at Chico's, which owns White House Black Market, Chico's, and Soma. So immediately out of college, I went down to Fort Missouri or Fort Myers, Florida, as some people kind of know it, and started doing PR for 3 brands. So I've always kind of been in this space of working on multiple narratives, multiple clients, assessing needs, strategies, and of course, being a Black gay man, I wasn't the customer demographic, right? So
I've been to White House Black Market. Yes, yeah. That is true.
And so, and you think about Chico's, which is a more mature customer, mm-hmm. I have always learned how to tailor messaging to the audience that I'm speaking to. And I've loved PR because that's essentially what you get to do. You get to be a storyteller and tell and amplify other stories.
Yeah.
In 2012, I moved back to New York City and worked at LaForce and Stevens, which is now known as LaForce, one of the top premier communications marketing agencies in New York. James and Leslie both were amazing mentors because they come from old school PR. Pick up the phone, do the work. Not knowing is not good enough.
Yeah.
So I've always worked to prove myself to myself, because I think, being the first person in my family to go to college, the first person in my family to move out of the DMV area. I'm from Clinton, which is in Southern Maryland. Always being the first, I'm always trying to prove that I am on the right path, because a lot of my family didn't take that path.
Mm-hmm.
And now being a first generation entrepreneur, my family's like, what does he do? Okay, it sounds like he's making money, he's traveling, he's doing something. But I'm also, I never want to take for granted the spaces and places that I am invited to be
mm-hmm.
in, but I also never want to show up less than my full self. So I think before 2018, when Noire Management was launched, I never showed up as my full self. I showed up as a more presentable version of myself. And, a lot of people know what I'm talking about when you have to code switch in the office. I was the Black gay friend of all the white girls because in PR agency, it's mainly white girls. Mm-hmm. And so I was the nice one. I was the less aggressive one. I was the one that knew about fashion and boys. And so I was one of the girls, mm-hmm. and I'm also, I have my own version of masculinity. So I do my nails, I have a blonde mustache. So all of these things made me less alarming to people. And that in and of itself is a privilege that I didn't understand. Because I thought everyone went to the Hamptons or everyone went to the Cape or everyone did these things. But that wasn't the case. I knew I didn't do those things, but I would never expose myself to not knowing. So I'm always, traveling internationally, trying new foods because I think there's still a fear within me to be exposed as if I don't know. But that is the world that we live in, Black and brown people, but I will, for the majority of this conversation, only speak about the Black experience because I am Black.
Mm-hmm.
The Black experience is you don't have those opportunities. Those opportunities aren't given to you. And so you have to fight and claw your way to be seen and heard and appreciated. And so my career has always been amplifying voices for brands.
Yeah.
But now I'm in an amazing position to amplify voices of those that look like me. And specifically, Black women. I was raised by 3 Black women. And I always say, God willing, if I have a child or adopt a child, I want to bring in a daughter. I want to give back to the world what I was blessed with. Black women turn water into wine. Like there is no, I can't, there is no, I'm tired. And that's not a good thing to have, but that is just what is ingrained in them, that tenacity to always go. And my mother worked 2 full-time jobs, just so I could do the things that I wanted to do. And so she would go to work from 6 to 4 and then from 5 to midnight. And I saw she did that for 10 years and never complained.
Wow.
6-7 days a week and never complained.
Wow.
And so I take great pride in being able to, in a space that is so new, even though it's around 10 years now, influencer marketing, it's still new. That's still a new industry. To be able to work with Black creatives and help them amplify their voices, but not only amplify their voices, demand and command their worth.
Yeah.
Because for too long, our culture, our way of being has been literally repurposed and never attributed to us or compensated. So that's kind of like me in a nutshell. And if someone's like, oh yeah, but what brands? Because I think, a lot of people are like, well, what brands have you worked with? I've worked with everyone from Spanx. I launched the Eva Longoria for the limited collection. I worked on Dwayne Wade and Mission. I did red carpet interviews for the Target collab. So I have done it all and seen it all. So I am qualified to speak on this.
You're at La Force, right? James is amazing. I mean, the work they do is incredible. And I feel like one of the few old school firms that, they haven't made the full pivot to digital, but their digital work is good. I mean, the VUV stuff is
I don't just Sydney, I think
it's good. You leave to start your own thing. That's a good job.
Actually, I didn't. I actually left, and and again is what I'm saying, why for Black people, we're always constantly checking ourselves to say, like, can I be in this space? Because I can't show up as my full self. So in a non-Black space, LaForce and Stevens is not a Black company, it's a white company. So in a non-Black space, how much of myself can I give while being authentic to myself and true to myself without alarming these people, And so I got to a space and place where I just felt like I can't only work on multicultural brands, because that's kind of like, oh, you're Black, you can work on this Black brand.
Yeah.
Or, oh, you can work on this thing. And it's like, I should be able to work on general market, just like the white girl around the corner in the next cube over. General market is considered the white market. Yeah. And then diversity and inclusion, or D&I as it's called, is more so for Black and brown communities. And I didn't want to there's nothing wrong with that, but being Black, I shouldn't only be, limited to these clients, because then I'm only talking to the same editors. I'm not growing my career. So I actually took a position at APA, which is a talent agency in New York. They were launching a PR agency within the talent agency that focused strictly on talent, strictly digital influencers. The partner there, Brian Dow, who is super smart, like Maggie Gallant, they all came from Rogers and Cowan, so they knew each other. They worked in the celebrity space and have worked with a crazy list of clients, but understood where media was going in terms of, you have to wait 3 months for the lead story to come out, then you have to print a retraction. How do we know if sales were actually attributed to that story? Where with an influencer, you send a box, they tag it, you can immediately see ROI. And so they flipped the PR industry on its head in terms of, we mainly focus on influencers. We still did traditional PR, because PR, like many industries, is old school. Yeah. Someone wants to see a press release. I'm like, I don't write press releases. It ain't, unless you're being acquired, sold, or launching something, you don't need to write a press release.
Yeah.
And then you put it over the Business Wire, and then those are guaranteed media impressions. And you can give me $2,500, and I'll call Business Wire. Right. So those are the things, they didn't want to do, but brands still were like, we want traditional PR, the press previews and all that stuff. But I spent a year there, and I will say wholeheartedly and honestly, it was the hardest year of my life, because I was on a very small team. And that was the first time I ever felt or experienced microaggressions. That was the first time I had experienced almost being seen as angry Black man. I could just feel it, because I am very loud. I am very bold. And so it was new, because it was all women, and it was all white women. And so here's this Black man being loud, or being like, wait, like, challenging something. And it made me shrink. It made me rethink everything I had done for 12 years before I went there, because I had never been in a space where people didn't like me, where people didn't respect me, where people didn't value, right? But I could feel it. And so after a year, I was, by the grace of God, let go. But before I was let go, I had a conversation with a client of mine, Kayla Walker, and said, if I do leave, what am I going to do? And she's like, oh, well, like, you keep giving influencer campaigns to your friends. Like, why don't you do that? Like, this influencer thing is a thing. And I'm like, what? How would I do it? And then a week later, I was like, well, Noire management will be popping. And it just came out of my mouth. So when I was let go, I felt like that was God in the universe saying, do this thing. Because again, for so long, I had given my talent and experiences to people that didn't look like me and didn't value my opinion either way. They were just paying a retainer and I was the client. Right. So for once, I wanted to take everything I had learned on that side of the table, brand deals, budgets, strategy, and give it to my people. Because I believe that I was put on this world, put on this earth to be of service. And so I service the Black creative community because that is the community that I exist in. And that is the community that will champion for me when all else fails. And so that is how I ended up launching Noire Management, being pushed off.
Okay. I love it. I mean, a question for you, because, you know, you said earlier in your career, you know, you were the friendly Black guy, you knew, you know, gay guy, you knew about boys, you know, you could do that whole thing, and you were very nice. Do you think that it was a different situation at that other firm? Or do you think you started to say, I don't want to play that role anymore? Like, you know, because it seems like a pretty different experience that you had at the firm before than the other one. Was that a change in you or a change in the firm, or both?
I think in hindsight, and as we're having this conversation, I think it could be a little bit of evolving and just getting older and just being tired of constantly having to be like, oh my God, that's so crazy, right? Like, yes, like I was sick of that shit. Like, I'm sick of it. And so, you know, I hope you could put like explicit language, because that's just what I think. But fuck that. Like, I'm so sick of constantly having to be what people expect you to be. You know, as a CEO, even to today, like people be like, you can't wear that. Why the fuck can't I? Right. I will show up as my full self. And that is why it's so important to serve Black creatives, because we always show up as our full selves. And that is why we are so influential, because it's just something you've never seen before. And so I think, you know, I was a new ingredient into something that was already working. Yeah. And so, you know, it's just a difference of opinions. And I think that team that I worked with at my last firm was brilliant, stellar. Like, these women knew their shit. We just weren't a fit. And I'm okay with that. But I definitely was changing, where I was just like, again, fuck having to cater to white people's fragile emotions of how I speak when they speak to me crazy and I'm just supposed to take it. No, like, we're having a passionate conversation about a strategy that our client is paying for. So it definitely was me changing and coming into accepting my Blackness, because for so long I was in places where there weren't a lot of Black people, and I would be the chocolate chip.
And let's start talking about the last couple of weeks. And I want to focus first on what is happening between companies and their communities, you know, and what I think for a lot of people, you know, they maybe aren't understanding the full context, or saying like, where did this come from? This feeling that the world changed overnight.
Right.
So from where you're sitting, what's happening? So
you have to think, we've been quarantined since March. Some people sooner, you know, earlier than that. So we've already been in the house, stressed out, not having the outlets that we have, which is, you know, seeing friends or seeing family or going for a run or going to the gym. We don't have our outlet, right? So working out at home ain't the fucking same as going to the gym, okay? No. Drinking at home ain't the fucking same as getting unlimited mimosas. So over time, we've already been agitated by the state in which we were being forced to exist in, right? Like, we know that we could have been prepared for this last year. We know our government has failed us. And so I think, you know, we are in a space and place where people are experiencing a global pandemic. COVID is still fucking running rampant. Arizona is quadrupling the amount of people on ventilators. This thing is still out there, but our government is telling us it's safe to go outside. And so there are dueling battles we're having. Should I go outside because I'm sick of being in the fucking house, or should I protect myself? And now that we know the government ain't shit and no one cares about us, it's about the economy, because we have an election coming up, and we can't go into November saying that another 23 million people have lost their jobs and the economy is in the tanker. So we must do the things that run the numbers that can then be an ad campaign right before November. And so dealing with that, and then having what happened to George Floyd happen on such a, you know, the thing about social media is that, and of course I'm getting emotional, the thing that happens with social media is it amplifies, you know, and good or bad, it basically gaslights everything and throws gasoline on things, and it can propel, but it can also destroy, you know. So to see George, I can't watch the full video, I just can't do it. But to see and know that once again, this is still fucking happening, even during a global pandemic. It takes, like, I can't even speak about it without just like taking a minute to let it process that nobody gives a fuck about Black people, because you know that they are filming you, but you are still doing this. You know that he's screaming out and saying these things are happening. He's basically dying, like his body is shutting down. And the fact that you think that you have the right to snuff out someone's, so that happening was like, fuck COVID, I'm sick of this shit, we gotta go. Because ain't nobody going to work, so we can protest from sunup to sundown, Sunday to Monday. That's what's happening. No one's going to work. No one is going to clubs or bars. So this is their outlet. And because we are still viewing things through the lens of a pandemic, right? We are experiencing raw emotion from people that are sick and fucking tired. And unfortunately, brands now, we're already in a predicament, right? Because a brand only exists when they can say our sales numbers are up, our customers are happy, and these are the things, or they fall to the wayside. Rest in peace, Blockbuster and every brand, right? But now they're trying to reinvent ways to, because this is going to be a new normal, right? We're never going to do business the way we did business. So brands like, you know, if you were a retailer, what's your drop-off pickup strategy now? Like, what's your curbside styling service? If you were a restaurant and didn't have delivery, now you're offering delivery. You know, if you're a mom and pop shop, it's all these things. And so I think what's really happening is that the PR girls, the white PR girls that have been at home and wanted to go to brunch and has been putting together, you know, the chief communication officers, the head of external affairs, they're constantly churning out stories and narratives to press, especially if you're a publicly traded company. Like, PR is a thankless and sometimes demeaning. It is a grueling, exhausting job. And all of my friends that have done PR, people that know publicists run the world, okay? And so what's happening is these publicists, they're exhausted. They're just exhausted. And so these responses from companies about COVID or layoffs, or now about civil unrest, is from a lazy publicist who's just tired. She doesn't have the right thing to say because she doesn't know the right thing to say, because this wasn't something they thought they would have to deal with. And that in and of itself lies the problem. Yeah. Brands never thought that there would be a reckoning that Black people and then their allies would say, fuck racism once and for all. And that's what people are doing. They are saying fuck racism. And brands aren't prepared. they've never had to be prepared. And so now you have, you know, trailblazers like, you know, the team behind Open 4 that are calling out companies like yours. You have trailblazers like Sharon and Jackie who are saying pull up or shut up. You have people like Aurora James with her 15% pledge. You have people like Lovey Ajayi and Bozema doing share the mic. You have all of these people saying, I need to know what's happening because you exist in a space that I exist in, right? And you and I, we talked about this. Like you know, political, policy change, activism from criminal justice reform and things like that. Yes, I am for it. I can't speak on it. I'm not knowledgeable enough to come from a place of education. But what I do know is influencer marketing, marketing in general, communications. So I'm going to use my voice to ensure that I am being the change and demanding change in the space that I exist in the world. And so brands are having to figure out how do we not alienate a customer, but show solidarity and support for another. And what's really happening is at the end of the day, the brand's trying to figure out, does the Black community spend a lot of money on us? Because if we come out in support of them, we know that they'll continue to support us and likely support us more. But if the white community comes out in backlash and they're our biggest, you know, they contribute to the bottom line more, that's why you get these all lives matter type of like, we stand in solidarity against discrimination of all kinds.
Yeah.
You know, our company has a zero policy for discrimination against all kinds. It's like someone sent a blanketed email to all the heads of like communications and was like, use this, change, you know, there's X's here where you can put your, but every company has the same fucking statement. Black, you know, black hue squares, white font. It's like, yeah, fucking right. You can tell it, and that's why we are so angry because it's like, y'all wasn't even prepared for this. And that is how deep your privilege goes that you didn't even think you would have to answer to this.
Right.
And that's
is it because I think that some people in PR were like, oh, that brand's message was wrong. But is the thing that's wrong is that we're finding that these brands don't have the authenticity to say that message at all. So there is no message because it's not about the message, it's about the actions.
Absolutely. And so you have inauthentic people that likely are like, what's the big deal? That's what's happening. There are white people writing these statements that's like, what's the big deal? Why is this still a thing? Why are those people marching? Why is my street shut down? It isn't an experience that they have, right? So they're just like, oh, it's another thing I have to do. Like when I was at Chico's and Waxburg Market, I'd be like, oh my God, I don't want to talk about this thing again because it didn't appeal to me. So you have communication officers writing things that don't appeal to them.
Yeah.
They're just coming from okay, what's the message? Admit guilt, not too much guilt. Give a kind of like vague, we'll do better. We have to do, you know, that type of structured statement to calm the mob. And it's like, nah, bro, that ain't gonna work. We're gonna need a little bit more because people are demanding data. People are demanding numbers.
Yeah.
So now brands are like, oh shit, like. Ugh.
And I think that's like, for me, that like, what's that authenticity question is that like, I think there, you know, I absolutely think a huge percentage of statements align with what you said. People are like, I have to say this. We don't really believe it. So give me a statement strong enough to hopefully not get eviscerated, not too strong that I have to do anything about it. But I think there are also brands that see themselves as like aligned with the Black community, see themselves as progressives who see, you know, saw what happened to George Floyd and were horrified and put out statements that were from their heart, but then everyone says, okay, but let's see a picture of your executive team.
Right.
Okay, let's see the receipts because I may believe how you feel,
right?
But you haven't done anything about it.
But feelings are not facts.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you stand in solidarity, but you don't stand in solidarity to help fight wage inequality or help, close that wealth gap. So if you really stand in solidarity at every turn, you will do everything within your power and with your privilege that will say, Jamie Dimon of Chase, JP Morgan Chase, and Tashonda Duckett and Sekou and that team that they created with Advancing Black Pathways, what they are doing. And for Jamie Dimon to use his privilege as a white man at the head of the largest, most successful financial institution and say, Black people deserve the same economic opportunities, and to have a Black woman in her full self, because Tashonda is like all the goals. Like I'm like, yes, sis, like, yes, braids and all. Have her set this mandate and be so intentional about it because she knows that customer. She knows that experience. Mm-hmm. That to me is someone that stands in solidarity. Mm-hmm. So you sending out a statement is not standing in solidarity. It's doing what you have to do.
Yeah.
And businesses for too long have just been, oh, it's nothing personal, it's business. But now it is fucking personal because that's what's happening.
And I would also say that like over the last 10 years, brands, not maybe the Chase Banks of the world, but think of all the millennial brands, fashion, they've been saying, we're not a brand, we're your friend.
They want you to, they're not brands, they're lifestyles.
Yeah, we're a lifestyle, we're a friend. You know us, we listen to the same music. We vacation in the same place. We all love Positano. And now, like people that maybe don't know the political views of their friends, something comes up and you find out, oh shit, this person I've been friends with for 10 years is a Trump voter?
I have friends that I have not heard from, and I've been friends with them for years. And that to me speaks volumes.
And so you say, maybe we're not friends. Maybe like, I can't be friends with you if you don't believe this. And I think that's also what brands are feeling, is that like, you had the good side of this. You had this lifestyle marketing, mm-hmm. And now when the community is just asking you to live up to your promises.
You're in a crisis, and most of these brands do not have crisis communication teams. They have lifestyle publicists. Mm-hmm. So if I'm pitching feature stories about a brand founder who's disrupting, because every fucking brand is disrupting. And I'm just like, get the fuck out of here, whatever.
Yeah.
Disrupting the marketplace. And they are, doing this cool thing. That's not a crisis. Right. And then you have a founder whose husband also has money. And so you're doing these lifestyle stories. You're never speaking to a New York Times news desk editor.
Right.
Because the news you produce is fluff.
Yeah.
You produce the people stories and the Us Weeklies. And if you do get a New York Times, it's mainly style.
Right.
Or a business story about just like, your numbers are up or you're being sold or whatever.
Right.
Now you're in the crisis realm. And those girls are not, there is a concentration that is crisis communications. That's for for industries like government and like tech and science, shit that really, if something really goes bad, you need somebody that knows how to do it.
Celebrity PR.
Look, right.
They've all got one in their back pocket.
Communicators, because their person could kill someone.
Yeah.
Now brands are saying like, oh, our team is not equipped or educated to even handle. We ain't talking about y'all sales are like, your sales are shipping late. I'm not getting my product on time. We're not talking about like lag delivery. We're talking about, why does your executive team only have white men on it? And even if you're a white brand and you have, you serve white women, or you say you serve all women, it's like you have not one woman. It's like beauty brands. Every beauty conglomerate, most of the board of directors is men. So you have at the very head, and we all know this, men setting the standard for beauty. That's why it's so, now it is very revolutionary for women to be on the boards of beauty brands, because it's like, oh shit, she could shut it down. Mm-hmm. It's not a pissing contest anymore. It's like, I'm putting my foot down and a fucking stiletto and letting you know that women are not going to stand for this. Right. It's a day, which is, I'm so excited to see. I love seeing, I don't love it, but I love having open, honest conversations like the ones we're having. Mm-hmm. I can sit down with someone that I don't particularly care for, and just have an open dialogue where I can walk away and say, okay, got it. I kind of understand where you thought that was okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I speak for personal experience, that this week, I probably had experienced that a lot of business owners did of waking up to, waking up to that gap, that authenticity gap between myself and my company, and especially our Black influencers in our Black community, because diversity in our influencer campaigns, like I have been a vocal champion of that on this show for years. Yeah. We have focused on it internally at 4.
And right therein lies the problem, because you said diversity, not diversity inclusion, or diversity inclusive. So, they always say diversity is being asked to the party. Inclusiveness is being asked to dance. Right. So while you could check off, we have Black influencers on our platform and we are engaging Black influencers, you're not engaging them in a way that's like, hey, does this work for you? Like, how would you kind of do this thing? How can we be more allies? Like, how are we really creating community? And I think it's right now, people are finding their tribe. They are finding their collective, because a collective is almost like, I used to watch Star Trek, and it's like the Borg. The cyborgs, they all kind of move with one single vision in mind. Even though even if they weren't on the Borg at that time, they moved with that single mission. And people are aligning themselves with people that have a mission to destroy any brand or person that thinks it's okay to discriminate against Black people.
Yeah. And
that's just where it is. So I think, yes, and not to cut you off, but I wanted to, point out therein of it lies itself, where, you have brands that are predominantly white-led saying we do care about diversity. You care about diversity all day long, but you don't or haven't thought about diversity inclusive.
Yeah. No, and that language is so important. And I think that that awakening to that, to say, and look, this is my privilege, right? Like I felt like we're doing these things to try and be better. We're doing these things to try and push the industry. And do I have to, did I take the time to really listen to that community and say, do you think I'm doing enough? Do you feel that? Do you, and not to mention, obviously, Four's diversity inclusivity problems in our leadership team, which, I was, when we wrote our, statement of, about Black Lives Matter and that movement, I was like, I need to get this out and say this first, that like the company isn't where it needs to be. But yeah, it's been, I think it's such an important conversation for that community to be like, nice statement. No, not enough. Not enough.
But that is how, like you said, that was your privilege.
Yeah.
Because from a very young age, you are nurtured and groomed to command the room, right? Be a man. Like when you walk in, you chest up, shoulders back, like you really show up. Black people, we just have to make sure that we give our children the talk. If you are stopped by the police, this is what you do. So while your parents were telling you how to show up and be a man, our parents were telling us how to survive. And so for us, it's really about, we have to think about these things. Even someone like me, I fucking have receipts to do this work, but I constantly have to second guess myself, because there could be, a situation where a white person could be like, what does this Black boy know? Because all they see is a Black man or a Black boy. Most times they'll be like, look at them Black boys. And those are grown ass men you're talking about. But that is the speech, the rhetoric, the narrative, that America has literally perpetuated for years. Those are boys. You respect men. You tell boys what to do. That's why they think it's okay to fucking kill us, because they think we're boys. they don't respect us. And so therein, when you think about from a very young age, I think it starts at 7 or either 9, that Black boys kind of start to see the downward spiral that education and just communities in general do to train them to see themselves as less than. And it's just, and that's where systematic racism comes in, because you didn't have to think about it. You was like, oh no, I have to get this out. Like, of course I stand for this thing. But again, white people talking about diversity and inclusion, or just diversity, is just like, oh my God, we got to make sure we have like Black people in it, right? Like, because that's like a thing. It's always because that's a thing. Mm-hmm. It's a trend to be diverse right now. Right. It's a no, that's just what you need to do. Mm-hmm. You got to lift the toilet seat before you piss on it. You need to be fair across the board when it comes to ethnicity inclusion, especially Black people.
And it feels, you know, I've been saying that this week in corporate America, I think there's two kind of narratives here, right? Like there, as we said, right? There is police officers killing Black men and women, but a lot of men over and over and over again getting away with it. And systemic racism in America. Then there's like what's happening in companies. And what's happening in companies feels like when Me Too started. And overnight, these things that were brushed under the carpet, that were a policy that a company had, but they didn't really do anything about it. Right. Overnight, that became not okay. And there was across every business, a reckoning, and heads rolled. And we've only started to see the beginning of what's happening.
The beauty of that, right? So Me Too was founded by a Black woman, but it really didn't everyone started to pay attention when white women started to talk about it. And it was like, oh yeah. And it's like, no, this shit's been around. Again, you're taking what we have created and using it for your benefit. And then when you're called out, then you're like, oh, sorry, yeah, bring her too. What? Mm-hmm. But when you think about where we are, it just goes back to, again, this country being built that everyone else does the work for us, right? And so Black people, just education-wise, to work in corporate America, most times you need a college degree. If Black people aren't given the opportunities to go to college, guess what? That eliminates the Black professional workforce. So for a very long time, there weren't a lot of Black people in corporate America. So those young officers, those junior accountants, and all these people that are now the CEOs of these mega billion-dollar companies, when they were coming to the workforce, they weren't working with no Black people. So they don't even know what we're talking about, because they're like, what the fuck is the problem? Like, this is a thing? Because now you're being exposed to something you've never experienced. It's almost like eating wasabi. You be like, oh shit, like my nose, like my God, like what? It wakes you up, and now everyone's smelling their big pile of shit, where it's just like, oh my God. If they care, I've been a part of the problem. I haven't understood that within my company, I am comfortable and can have certain conversations and not worry about certain things, and not understand that when I walk outside into the real world, that this is the world that I live in. Because we become, our careers, and we talk about this, our careers are very much ingrained in the fabrics of who we are. Mm-hmm. Some people have jobs, but people look for careers where they can define and create and be known for something. Mm-hmm. And so if you are a businessman, you want to be known for being a successful businessman. But now you're being asked to be known for diversity and inclusion, and why you don't have any Black executives. And you're just like, well, shit, I never had a Black coworker when I was coming up. So that's where we are. Yeah. And now that's why you see what you see, all white male boards, because these are their friends. I'm a CEO. I have friends, like Julie Wilson, who's the beauty director at Cosmo. We worked together when I was a junior publicist and she was at Real Simple. We grew up together. So we constantly had the same conversations or discuss things. So we kind of have this backlog of look at how fucking far we've come, but how much further we have to go. And if white people haven't had the experience of working, because you live with Black people. We're in, when you walk outside your office, you're gonna see all races. But if you don't have to work where you spend the majority of your time, because America teaches you, America does not teach or promote entrepreneurship. It teaches you how to be a employee. So it's that mind, that worker mindset, that worker bee mindset. You don't have to, you don't, it's like, okay, this is the thing you should do. And so now it's just like, oh shit, I don't even know what Black people talk about. I don't even know what their issues are. That's what's happening.
And there are a lot of white people taking a hard look at themselves this week. Hopefully more than, probably, unfortunately, a lot of white people have not taken a good hard look at themselves this week. But I know this was a big week of self-reflection for me and for my team. And in the influencer community, I think a lot of white influencers, taking a good hard look at themselves. They're reading about white fragility. They're reading about anti-racism,
The ones that care, because I think a lot of them don't. I think a lot of it is performative in a sense of like, if I don't do this thing, I will be called out. Like you said, brands were like, we have to put out. Like you were like, I have to put out. And so there are a lot of white influencers that are like, I have to stand in solidarity because they have one Black friend.
Right.
But when you look at even certain comments or even certain things you've done, have you really honored your Black friend? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And some have, and I'm not saying all, but I think majority of them, it's performative. Yeah. It's so they don't get dragged. Right. And because social media is so loud, and when you brought up Me Too, I thought about all those white women, and Me Too was so important. It was important when it was originally founded, and it was important when it got all the press it got. But a lot of those white women are clamming up when it comes to the microaggressions that they have presented and exposed Black women to. It's almost like when the feminist movement started. Yeah. That was started alongside Gloria Steinem, and there was a Black woman right there with her. But unfortunately for Black women, they have to choose. Am I Black or a woman? Mm-hmm. During that time, when the feminist movement was happening, the civil rights movement was happening. Right. The Black women couldn't go to 2 marches. One allowed to plane and train. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, right. Am I going to the Black march or am I going to the women's march? And that is why you see feminism, where it's just like, this don't got shit to do about what's really going on, especially for Black women, because Black women weren't at the meetings and at the tables or invited because they had to go and basically fight for the right to just be Black, to be in existence on this world. And that's why a lot of times we're frustrated when white people say, what can I do? It's like, oh my God, like I gotta tell you what to do? Like, we have to do everything. We have to create the things that you then take and make your own, but then we have to tell you about it, and you have to act like you care, and then I now have to tell you why or what you need to do, when it should be just human nature to love one another, respect one another. You don't have to agree, but you must respect. It's bare minimum.
And if you're, let's say you're new to this journey, right? You're waking up. This week was like I do think for a lot of people, a big wake up call to the reality of 2 Americas, and you're waking up to that, right? It's enlightenment is a path, right? And you get better as you learn more and as you progress. Sure. And I think some people feel that, especially public figures, how do you walk down that path and know you have so much work to do, but admit that you just started, You
Cersei Lannister the hell out of it. Like, for my fans, like, I fucking hated her. Like, Daenerys Stormborn all day. But Cersei literally was stripped. Shame, and still came back to be the queen. And like, you know what I mean? That's what you have to do. You must be stripped of all that you knew in order to be reborn, hopefully enlightened. Because a lot of people are being called to the carpet. A lot of people are resigning from their companies because they're like, oh shit, like, fuck, oh my God, I can't even do my job because I now need to do a lot of self-reflection. I think a lot of people that are resigning are just like, I I can't do this job and also understand who I am,
Right.
or figure out who I am, you know? And
Or is it like, I don't want to do this work.
I don't want to do this work.
I don't want to do it.
Fade
Not
off
interested.
As long as I'm not at the head or I'm not a public figure anymore, I can have my little private conversations, and, you know, when the dust settles, if it does, I can kind of sneak my way and go be at another brand or do another thing. And my privilege will allow me to be atoned for just being silent.
Right.
Right now, your silence does not atone you, does not redeem you. There is no redemption in silence.
Mm-hmm.
You must be like, you know, you kind of have to explain yourself. And people, I think human nature, we're all still defining who we are every day. And we are just products truly of experiences that we have directly, indirectly, voluntarily, or involuntarily. You know, so if you never experience that thing, you never know that it is a thing. And so you never have developed the education, the knowledge, the know-how to deal with that thing, because you've never had to deal with it.
Right.
And right now, people haven't had to deal with their own reflection of how they truly view racism when they know they indirectly or directly are benefiting from a system that is based off of oppressing other people.
Yeah.
And that's probably where you are.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. And I think that you know, I think this week has shown, a lot of people how much work there is. I think that it's, you know, the reason inclusion, that idea is that I'm not creating a seat at the table. The seat's there. I chose not to fill it. Or I didn't, you know, my eyes weren't open to that. Is that like, and this is a question, let me try and form it, because it's a big one. I can never understand, you know, and I think it is why it's so important that companies are inclusive and diverse, because there's no amount of books, you know, there's no amount of Baldwin I can read to understand, because my every single day of my experience has not included that fear. It hasn't included that. Yeah. What a white, I mean,
see,
and so I guess is the answer, right? The answer is you have to hire. You have to make sure those voices that do understand it, that lived it, are there, because there's no amount of what can I do? I can't do anything, really, except hire, right?
Right.
Listen. Right.
And even if we, you know, make it applicable to the industry that we are talking about, you, I'm sure, are bombarded with questions of like, what can I do to grow my followers? What can I do to be a better influencer? What can I do to get more brand engagement? Sometimes we just have to do the work, right? And when you do the work, you learn. You learn from doing. But we live in a society where people are told what to do and are used to being told what to do. So even when I saw you catch yourself, you was just like, what? And then you were like, oh shit, and I'm doing it again. Yep. Because we are trained to ask, what can I do to make it better? Mm-hmm.
How can I help?
How can I help? Because you don't know. And again, it's like, that's why you have to do the self-work to say, what would I want? And that's why it's hard for white people to say or come up with solutions about this problem, because they don't live it every day. There isn't a constant reminder. Like Ellen Pompeo has a Black husband, and you will always catch her talking about Black shit, because she sees what her husband and what her Black children will go through, even though she is Ellen Pompeo. She knows that there's going to be someone that doesn't know that their mom is Dr. Gray, whole thing. And she's constantly reminded of that because she's in an interracial relationship. And so, again, that's why I said you're not constantly reminded of what it's like to be Black in America. Yeah. And so having a conversation, you know, this one conversation, which will, you know, hopefully allow us to have other conversations, it's just one reminder of what it's like to be Black.
Yeah.
But when you log off and when you go on about your day, there's no Black people in your personal space to remind you of that.
Right.
And that's why reading is different from experiencing it.
Yeah. It's, you know, I had this experience with a friend, and it sounds silly, but for her, it was really profound. We were at a concert. I have a soft spot for like country, not like crappy, you know, pop country, but like there's this one Canadian guy I love named Coulter Wall. He makes like cowboy music. I dig it. We're at this concert, and you know, this woman's boyfriend is Spanish, and he didn't come, and she was looking around, and she was just like, he would have been the only person of color in this room. And I think like that for both of us was just like, I've never been in that room. I've never been in that room.
Never been the only one.
And you know, it's just impossible to even, I think for most white people, wrap your head around that. To say, I'm with 2,000 people, not a single one looks like me. And that is apparent to everyone. That's not, you know, that's not a hidden, oh, I didn't brush my teeth this morning, I don't want anyone to find out. And it was, again, it sounds silly, but that example and being there and both of us being like, wow, yeah, that would be really, and then like thinking like, that's every single day of his life.
So now I'm sure you understand why things like Open 4 have to be brought out, because just me going to work, I'm the only one. And I could be an influencer that I'm trying to no longer have to be in a space where I'm the only one. So I am doing influence on the side because I want to influence my community, and I know I'm influential, and no longer have to shrink myself and not be able to show up as my full self. And so when you see campaigns, and we're not talking about for Black hair brands, like we're not talking about that.
Right.
We're talking about for things that we know everyone uses, everyone benefits from. All these motherfucking influencers, and you got 2 Black girls? Or you got 1 Black girl? And she light skinned? She has light eyes? She might be Latin. She's racially ambiguous. So fuck this. I cannot and I will not have the thing that brings me joy, because influencer work is work. The people that actually exist in this field and take it seriously, you see that.
Yep.
You see that. I see that with my clients. I see that with so many amazing women, Black women that are the photographer, the editor, the audio director. You know, you're a one-woman show. You are spending your own money on expensive ass equipment, clothes, memberships to rent the runway, doing all the things. And yet and still, you're not even the only one. You're no one. You're constantly, I'm here. I'm on your platform. I'm here. I'm on your PR list. I'm here. I'm coming to your events. I'm here. I'm engaging with you in the comments. I'm doing all the things you told me to do, right? And you've done it with your conferences and state of, you know, where we are and things like that. You've told influencers what to do. And those Black influencers have done that. And still, I don't have a paid campaign. And then when I do, it's embarrassing and disrespectful, the rate that I'm offered. Now it's like, what the fuck are you gonna do about it? Because I'm tired of doing everything you told me to do and not, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. At that level, you know, living life as the only one and then going to an industry where it's supposed to be inclusive and it's just shoes or it's just, you know, we're just Instagramming and whatever. And I still can't be seen? No. Because you have to exist. Mm-hmm. There has to be 4s. right? You know, that's why there's so many platforms like yours. You are a necessary evil in an industry that is still very much growing and trying to define itself. But you will not and can no longer ignore the Black community when it's like, okay, we'll take a few here and there, but not be truly inclusive. And that's why I think it is so important for brands to take a hard look at themselves. Because when you're canceled, you're canceled. It ain't no conversation. We're canceling you. I don't want to hear nothing from you. But when people are demanding something from you, that's because they're saying, I've seen this shit. I'm not putting up with it. And if we are to continue in any type of relationship, you need to do better, and it better be fast.
Yeah. So for brands, you know, for brands that are watching this, that, you know, have their communities asking, you know, and they're scrambling, maybe trying to, you know, quiet the voices or whatever it might be.
They're posting all the Black influencers on their pages.
Yeah, they're posting, they're amplifying voices. They're, you know, they're doing all these things. And they're saying, I don't know what to do. It's the work, right? Like what the community is asking for is the actual work
that you claim to say that you are doing.
Right.
It is, and again, it is so easy. You brought this up on the town hall. You know, our network. But if you only have an all-white network, it's always going to be all white.
Yep.
So you have to just look at the spaces and places that you exist in and that you experience. Because if you never go to, I mean, we don't have anything. Like, you know, I mean, it's like most times, like they're playing our music at these brand events, or they hiring the rappers to come, but they still ain't bring the Black girls on the trip. But you got Migos playing, and I love me some Migos. It's like you got Travis Scott, but you ain't got no Black girls.
Mm-hmm.
You got Megan Thee Stallion, and every brand when Megan Thee Stallion came out had Hot Girl Summer something. Megan Thee Stallion came up with that, but you ain't asked no Black influencers the Hot Girl Summer of that campaign with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it's about. It's about brands actually saying, where in my, I don't give two shits about your personal life. What you do on your personal time, if you like it, I love it. But when you and I are engaging in business, if I am constantly reminded that there are white people in this space that have privilege ingrained in them that will give them that extra little percentage above me, you should challenge yourself to say, in my business, with every interaction I have, how many times does it take before I actually engage with a Black person? And that's from finance, HR, talent procurement, negotiations. If it takes you 3, 4, 5 times before you actually talk to a Black person, it's like, ooh, shit. Like, because it's a game of telephone. By the time it gets to that person, the story's been like exaggerated or watered down. And it's lost in translation. That person has to be right next to you. Mm-hmm. And that's the daily reminder, because that person will remind you.
Yeah. Yeah. We're sitting, again, I feel at a turning point in the world. I want to ask you personally, are you feeling optimistic? Are you feeling pessimistic? What are your thoughts on the future today?
Personally, I'm feeling pessimistic, right? We see this thing where it's like, and I think I'm personally excited for Black people because we are fucking shit up. We are no longer taking it. So for me, I'm like, burn it up. Like, let's do it. Like, where we going? Like, I got my influencer shit. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. Like, where are we? Yes, we are organizing and strategizing. It brings me joy because it reminds me that being Black is lit as fuck. We go through so much shit, but we still show up and show out. And we still do it with grace because that is who we are. That is what's inside of us. So to see so much devastation online and in the news and outside our homes, but still I rise, right? Maya Angelou, still I rise. Because that is what you do when you are Black. You say, if you think that was going to break me, you ain't saying nothing yet. So I am optimistic about that because that is just who we are. I don't know that my white allies or the people that are screaming are going to show up in 2 months because this work is ongoing. I am constantly reminded that I am Black. I'm constantly reminded that I am a Black man. And then it is only if they get to know me that they know that I'm a Black gay man. Or they may prejudge me just by the way I'm dressed. Those are things I'm constantly reminded of. You're not constantly reminded that black people are being killed. You may not follow pages and you may roll through your timeline and only see white influencers and white people partying. So when you see it, yes, it's shocking. It's like, oh, what is this? What's going on? This happens? Yeah. And so for white people, I challenge everyone to truly ingrain yourself in the experience. If you at the protests and you at the marches, okay, show up here, show up there all the time. That is what makes me a little like, I don't know if they really want to do this work. Because this is going to be some work. Mm-hmm. Because just like for you, there's going to be a point where you be like, fuck, I am the problem. And that is understanding and realizing that we want to present the best version of ourselves, and someone calls us out on our shit, it's like, oh shit, where did I go wrong? If you care. And the people that care, it's gonna hurt and it's gonna sting and it's gonna feel like, I don't know who I am because I thought I was this. And now my actions as I continuously do this work and unpack it, that's not who I am. And I don't know how to not be who I am while on this journey of enlightenment because I've been shamed through the town square. Mm-hmm. And so, I am excited for these brands to be dragged across social media because now if that's what it takes, if we got to burn every company down for them to rebuild it and be like, if I want to be in this space and make money and do all the things influencer marketing allows us to do, I can no longer ignore Black people. That I am excited about because it is allowing you and I to have a conversation. Yep. Because I told you, before that time, I was just like, y'all can have that shit. James, I was like, It felt like Emperor's New Clothes for me. I was like, is nobody saying he's naked? Like, no, he's not saying anything. But you guys are laughing. I'm like, what the But to have a conversation with you and to understand, I don't have to understand why you did what you did because I understand your privilege allowed you to exist where you didn't have to think about these experiences and why being in campaigns was so important. You didn't have that concert profound moment where it's like, imagine being an influencer with 60,000 followers or 100,000 followers, 5% engagement, like comments out the wazoo, and still not good enough. But I was told that 3 to 5% engagement was this, like, oh shit, you in the money. 3 is like really where you want to be. But I got 5% engagement. I had, over-indexed client demographics with my followers. And I still didn't get that campaign? Or I got that campaign and they gave me 1/10 of what they paid that white girl with 30,000 less followers than me and shitty engagement? That is what it is. That's what it feels like. The person walking into the country concert and being the only one.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to be able to, and I know there are some people that are watching this and being like, why would he sit down with him? Like, he worked with you cannot exist in this space and not, be able to, I always say, and speaking personally, you have to sit down with your oppressor. If I feel wronged by someone, I must have that conversation with them. Because you and I will interact somewhere down the line because that is the industry we're in. This industry is small. Every industry is small.
Right.
It's going to be where they're like, are your clients, like even if I work with a brand, without you guys, they're going to be like, is your clients on 4? Are they verified on 4? That PR girl, who may be a white girl on the other end of that email, may be like, I don't see your clients. Are they verified on 4? Because that's all she knows because she's been following you. And so I have to have a conversation with you, an open dialogue and open line of communication to say, this shit ain't it. And how do we make this better?
Mm-hmm.
Because making this better for, regardless of Noire Management's clients, making this better for every Black influencer with 2,000 followers who wants to get to 10, to get to 20, they need to see that some work was done. And that's what I want to do. I want to leave a legacy where it's like, he fucking revolutionized marketing, communications, PR. He was like like CAA who? Like, there aren't any all Black, big talent agencies. You have your CAAs, your UTAs, your WMEs. They're all white-led companies. And that is why white people are able to control the narrative and give us crumbs of things. But now we're organizing. Shout out to Ava DuVernay. Like, we have to create the industry and the change we want to see. And that's why having a conversation with you, I'm here because I want people to see that. Again, I can come into it like, I ain't with it, but I can have an open dialogue, man to man, and be seen and say, how does it get better from here? And what do I do to hold you accountable? Because again, we have to work together.
Yeah. And I think on the flip side, it's, you know, you are a loud voice of criticism.
Yeah.
Early on in the last couple of weeks, publicly on our Instagram, and
which was growth. And I think
my first thought was I know that this in the past has come off as potentially disingenuous, or I admit that I've exited some of these conversations listening but not then putting things into action. But like I hear I don't like what you're doing. I think what you're doing is wrong. I've know of Noire Management. I know what you do. I'm like, let's talk because I feel that like that growth is so necessary. I think it's so important for people to see this, to be able, I was talking to my old professor, John Daves, a couple of weeks ago, and he said that like the big unlock for white people is seeing yourself from someone else's shoes, seeing yourself from someone else's point of view. And if you would have asked me when I had that conversation with him, I would have said, I can see myself.
Right.
And then this week has taught me, nope. And I'm less confident in that now. And I think that's a good thing. I'm less confident. I know I can't see myself yet.
Right. Because it's scary to face the true you. But it's the person that you may have known was inside of you. You know what I mean? We all have private thoughts. We all kind of be like, oh, what if I didn't give a fuck? Or what if I just like really did something crazy? We all have that. But we all act in a way where we're like, I don't want to be perceived a way. So we all act in ways in which we want to be perceived. I want to be perceived as this or that. So we do things. But over time, you just adjust and become your full self, right? You no longer go and work for white companies. You build your own, or you no longer exist in that marriage. You divorce him, or you no longer allow companies to have you on their platforms like yours and use your voice as data points, but not use your influence and compensate you. You just get to a point where you're just like, I'm fed up and I'm not doing it. And I think you will get to a point where you're just like, I have to unpack who I am, because who you are informs everything you do. Mm-hmm. And I think because I will say, and I can ask you this, do you think you would have been truly as open, transparent, and honest as you've been if George Floyd wasn't? We're viewing everything through George Floyd's lens.
Yep.
We're viewing it through no. This is the catalyst that kicked it all off, right? If we weren't viewing it through that lens, and this was just another, like, you put something out and it was whatever.
Right.
If the spotlight wasn't on it as bright as it is now, do you think you could have been as open, as honest, as transparent as you've been?
No.
Exactly.
No chance. Seeing a man murdered in that way, I think it broke this myth about white America that, now I'm gonna get emotional. It like, we just saw it, you know, and it's like, and then, you know, being out at the protests, being there, like, and like, you just, you couldn't, you couldn't, you know, you couldn't put it under the rug. It was just, it was such a horrific, singularly, like, horrific, traumatic thing that I think white Americans had to say, like, what? You know, like, I might be benefiting from this world, but if that's what it looks like,
But that is
maybe I don't want to benefit that much.
Yeah.
Maybe it's worth evening things out, because I can't be complicit in that America.
Right. And that's why I said our careers become so ingrained in the fabric of our lives. And so when you have a career, you don't understand. You think it's like, oh, like that doesn't happen in fashion or beauty or whatever. It's like, no, like we're all like, it's amazing. No. Because any business built in America is built on the foundation of racism.
Mm-hmm.
Every industry is built on basic business principles that exclude Black people. And so what's happening now is you have brands that are, again, we're not talking about police departments, we're talking about just brands and platforms in general. And they're being called to talk about something that they thought like would never cross their threshold. They never thought they would have had to explain it in such a way. And even for you, you said you wouldn't have been, because you're like, okay, you would have did that thing you do. Oh, let's talk about it. And you would have disregarded it, right? And so,
yeah, it's like you want, like, I'm not trying to defend myself. I'm trying to understand the way I used to act. It's like, I want to get better. I want to hear you, but then it fades off, because I don't have to. I don't feel that it is fundamental to continuing to live and enjoy the life that I have built. This work has to be done. And I feel like that's the new America, is that I want to sit in this office. I want to run this company. My big responsibility now is that journey, because culture is Black culture. Like, it is. I think the coolest, you know, I'm always like, I think the coolest kids in the world are like the 18-year-old Black skateboard kids in New York City. Anything they do, 5 years later.
Dual worlds of like, they're skating, but they don't.
Yeah.
Yes.
5 years later, everyone's doing whatever those like 18-year-old skate kids in New York City are doing. Black skate kids. We've been, you know, that's it. I deal in connecting brands to culture. And I think that to continue to have the privilege to do that, the community said, do the work first. You know, you have to be better. You have to, not I want you to, not you should, not it would be, hey, really great if you were better. But like, you will not be able to have a business if you do not do this.
Isn't that scary? Isn't that scary to know what you've built and how hard you've worked can be taken away from you?
Yes.
Group?
Yes.
Right. That is what and how Black people exist in the world. Our lives can be taken for no fucking reason at all. We can be bird watching in Central Park and we can have our lives taken because we are asking someone to follow the rules that they put in place. Our lives can be taken because someone thinks we're writing or using fake money. Our lives can be taken because we're selling cigarettes just to put food on our table.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that fear that you felt, because again, like you said, you know that there was a real fear that we would have been loud enough. Those women, again, I applaud them, and like, you know, they would have taken you down. And that fear that you felt in the pit of your stomach, that is the fear we feel every single day we leave our house. That is my reality. And so it's scary as fuck to be Black in America, but I have no other choice. I can't wash this off. And that is why, again, in this industry, why I was so adamant and why I was so specific and so intentional. I will only work with Black and brown creatives, but I will prioritize Black creatives because I am Black. I know that experience. Mm-hmm. And white people have prioritized white people. But the first time of, you know, why can't brands be Black? Why can't Melissa Butler and what she's built with the lip art just be a beauty brand? Why does it have to be tokenized as a Black beauty brand? It's a beauty brand. But that's what we do to Black business owners. Mm-hmm. Oh, you got through. You cracked the code, but you're still a Black business brand. Putting that Black on it almost discounts it. Why can't it just be a beauty brand? Mm-hmm. Because you want to identify what? Okay. And they use Black, Latinas all up and down. They are a beauty brand. Carol's Daughter is a beauty brand.
Right. Well, I think white America has needed Black America to see itself the way it's wanted to in a lot of ways, right? I think Baldwin said that like, I don't consider myself the way white America, like white America needs the N-word, not, you know, that's their thing, because they need that to be able to see themselves.
Yeah.
It's their problem that, like, you know, racism can only be cured when white people are cured of this disease. They're sick.
That is why I was willing to have this conversation with you, because I could sense that fear in that conversation we had. I could sense that fear. I was like, when you take away someone's ability, because you identify as James Noire, CEO of Ford, that is your identity. You wear that proudly. If you are no longer the CEO of Ford, who is James Noire? That's some scary shit.
Yeah.
And so having your identity almost taken away scares you into doing the thing that you should have been doing from the beginning. Black people, we got to do right. We got to out the gate do shit the way it's told to us, or it's instantly it's a wrap. For white people, they have to feel that fear that Black people experience every single day in order to be like, ooh, shit. Okay, this is that thing they was talking about.
Yep.
This is that pit in my stomach where it's going to go down and I am no longer going to have a company, and then I'm going to have to redefine myself. But redefine myself as the failed CEO of something that I existed in for so long.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty profound way to end this. I think that we're not done. Our relationship's not done. Work's only getting started. I think, you know, I think the heads have only begun to roll. I think corporate America is going to have a reckoning over the next few weeks and months. And
boards are going to look so great.
And yeah, and I really appreciate this conversation. I'm sure there are a lot of brands right now saying, oh shit, I need to get better at this. I need to make sure that I'm working with Black and brown, especially Black influencers. No better person to reach out than you. I think that anyone who's listening to this conversation knows that. And I hope they reach out. I know that we're going to be doing some work together. And again, I really appreciate the candor and the honesty and the wisdom today. And I
will say this to you. Thank you for finally seeing me and being able to see us. Because you didn't see us. You heard us, but you didn't see us.
Yeah.
Now you see us. And that is all Black people want. But what I'm not going to do is say thank you and let this be a pat on the back and now you've been atoned.
Right.
I was raised, I just have good manners. I just say thank you for your time, because thank you for your time. because we have infinite amount of resources. Time is not one of them. And so this time and space that we are existing in and holding right now to have this conversation and share it with brands and people that need to have that conversation. Thank you for being able to use your platform to even just put out who Noire Management is, because there are companies that are looking for diversity and inclusive agencies to focus and help them do it. And now we have a platform. So thank you for, during this time when all eyes are on you, allowing you and I to have this honest conversation.
Absolutely. And look, I think if this week I was blind, but I see, may I never unsee. And I think that the accountability to keep your eyes open and to keep this issue top of mind and to do the work month after month, year after year, it can never be enough. And I think that we can never stop growing. And I look forward to the journey. And thanks again for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.